Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tokyo FinTech podcast. Today, I'm here with David Gurle, who's the CEO of Symphony Communications, the secure collaboration platform. Hello, David. How are you?
Hello, Norbert. I am very well. Thanks for having me today.
It's great to reconnect. You were a surprise visitor at our Tokyo FinTech meetup in August 2018. It just happened that we had Symphony as the topic and you were in town, so it was fabulous to see you at that time. I remember you said you had 400 employees 2 years ago. So how has the journey since been?
Well, it was a great surprise for me too, actually. So it was indeed a fantastic event. It was nice to be with you. Well, the journey has been incredibly, I would say, exciting and challenging at the same time. You know, the life of a startup is never dull. From 400, we are well past 500, probably in the close to 600. I stopped counting after 500 now. We've grown in so many dimensions. We've grown as individuals. We've grown as the number of employees. We've grown as number of regions. So we'll talk all about that. But it's been certainly a fascinating journey since then.
With the pandemic now, everything is, of course, everybody is looking for collaboration platform communication tools. So did you see a spike as expected in demand for your services?
Absolutely. A massive spike, like 20% growth. It's like 2 to 3 times spike. It didn't catch us by surprise, I'll be honest with you, because the coronavirus epidemic started, as you know, early January in Asia. We were in Asia and we are in Asia. And we saw the effect immediately. And it wasn't the same scale, of course, when everything hit the Western world, but we were ready. Product was ready, the team was ready, the service was ready, the performance was ready. And we just keep seeing the numbers go up and up and up and up every day. And we were very pleased that we could serve the market. And if you go back to March, it was incredibly volatile market times. The volumes of trading, the volumes of interactions, nobody has ever seen this before. And so we were able to sustain all of that. And I'm very proud of the team and very humbled to serve the world's economy in these challenging times.
I think it was also the comments from Goldman Sachs came in that typically you don't have the traders trading from home for compliance reasons. And of course, now in this environment, this all had to be done and people made it possible. And your tool played a pretty good role in facilitating that, enabling people to conduct almost business as usual in very, and I use this term again, unprecedented circumstances.
Indeed, things have turned pretty much upside down. There was a moment, let's say, let's pick like January 1st, 2020. If I had come to you as my head of desk of equity, and Norbert, you know what? I feel like working from home today. And you'll tell me, no way, you're coming here and certainly not working from home. June 1st, I could go to my head of desk, same person who said no. And I say, you know what? It's okay for you if I work from home a couple of days a week. And she or he is going to say, of course, yeah, because it's possible. It's demonstrated. The experiments that we have run for working from home, remote working, different working configurations has been at a scale that nobody has ever imagined would be possible. And it has proven right so many ideas, and it's proven wrong so many preconceptions, prejudgments. And so there was no better way to erase that to create a new future, which I think is better in some sense.
Of course, when we're in the fintech space, we're talking often about the marginal cost of any service that's digital going to zero. And of course, you have a little bit the secondary label of being the Bloomberg killer. And so, as you said, during the crisis, onboarding incredible growth in a short time is just possible because you're providing everything in a digital way. And I think also you were talking about the vision of transitioning into communication from old times, from fax machines to email and now to social collaboration, where that trend really came from the personal side and we brought it into the workplace. And so maybe talk a little bit about what you're taking away from your competition and also the description of the different networks, because you're really creating a network of companies within an industry.
Norbert, I'm so glad you said what you just said. Very few people who understand that. You definitely made my day. We are building that network of companies in which the transitive trust, if a company trusts Symphony and Symphony trusts a company, then those companies, part of this network, are trusting each other through Symphony. And by the same token, the employees who belong to those companies can have trustworthy interactions with each other. And that's really what Symphony is about, is building that network. And we've done exceptionally well in this environment, despite a very competitive dynamic. And our competitive situation is kind of unique. You mentioned Bloomberg earlier on. And of course, we see Bloomberg, especially when the Venn diagrams overlap on the communication stack. And people need to make a decision whether they want to put Symphony on the 6 to 8 screens that they have. And if we provide value, we have a right to be there. But that's not the only competition, because that individual has to work with the rest of the organization to conduct its business. And that means that we have to sit at the mid office, at the back office, at the IT or the operations, the support organizations. And here we face Microsoft. That's the Microsoft domain. That is the IT, central IT, which will go and make a unilateral decision to deploy in their organization an enterprise stack coming from Microsoft, and that is Skype and Teams. And so we've been kind of fighting a battle on these two fronts from the very early days, to Skype on one hand, Link and Skype, and then Bloomberg on the other hand. And so we had to learn to be more agile. We had to learn to be closer to our customers. And we did. And I say it confidently because of the numbers. We now have over 500,000 subscribers. And that is no small feat in a market in which signing a contract takes 2 years. And deploying a product takes 18 months. And I am not exaggerating. No, please don't think that, this is to give us any credit. I wish it was 3 months. I wish more fintechs can be successful in this very difficult market. But we were able to get to where we are because we constantly innovated and iterated with our customers. Pretty much every feature, every product that we have built is based on the customer interaction. It wasn't a product manager here or me there saying, this is what we got to do and let's do it and let's see what happens in the market. No, it wasn't like that. It was like customers said, hey, we need to connect to our customers who are on WhatsApp and WeChat. Can you guys build a solution? Yes, we can. And we learn to say, yes, we can. And yes, we can. That been, the fuel to our success to date.
And so with 500,000 people on the platform, there's obviously a tremendous amount of information that gets generated every day, especially in capital markets context. Also in this distributed work environment that we're finding ourselves in that might stay with us for a longer time. And to a certain extent, capital markets business has always been a global business, a distributed business. But you talked about the synchronization of information that becomes more and more important. And I think you gave the example that when you were at Microsoft, all your team was on the 13th floor. And if you want to check something, you just walk around and get all the information. But if you're distributed, that's much harder. And so how are we going to manage this overflow of information and find the right nuggets that really make a difference in our professional lives in this case?
Oh, and that's another very important and acute pain point for any information worker. We migrated to these new communication capabilities. With the growth of the network, the usage obviously grew exponentially. And you're right, the volume has become overwhelming and too noisy. And it falls on three means to conquer that challenge. One is on the receiver, another one is on the sender, another one is on the platform. The receiver of a message needs to figure out how best to organize her dashboard. Think about it, a workspace as a dashboard, because that's where the information is coming from. If you are a pilot, you have multiple screens representing you multiple critical information about the flight situation. So that situational awareness is the same for an information worker. You need to be able to organize your space so that you have the essential information that's filtering out to you. And from a sender point of view, the senders should think about that before sending a message and saying, I'm going to value the time of the receiver and not going to harm that person or those people who are in the chat room. So it is the equivalent of saying, the electrical system of a plane sending bogus signals and, non-useful signals to the pilot saying, I'm okay. No, well, I know you're okay. Just stay green. So that's kind of what I call the responsibility of sender and the receiver. And then there is a platform. The platform plays even a bigger role. You have to create the concept of this dashboard. You have to create the conceptual filtering. You have to understand what's noise, what's signal. And you have to give the end user to prioritize information the way they want to consume it. you can't just assume that everybody has the same goals and therefore the same filters. It's a very complex environment. We are dealing in an environment where the traders are in this high volume, high density messaging system. Sometimes they have 50 messaging screens open. On the top of that, they have their, trader voice application running, the alerts coming left and right. It's a highly tense environment, like in a crisis zone. Then on the other hand, you have somebody who is doing research or a portfolio manager sitting very quietly in an office, having a very intellectual moment and writing a long draft about an investment that she is going to propose to the boss. So you have to cater to these two extremes. And the platform has a lot of role to play, as I said. And we did that. We work very closely. We watched for hours those people. We sat behind them and see how they work and then how they filter information, what's frustrating them, and designed, iterated until we get it right. And we did. So we are grateful for that effort.
One of the things that we always hear here in Japan, of course, is Japan is so different. But in your case, it actually was because of the encryption approach that you're using and then building the index on that encrypted information, which is inherently dependent on the language. So it gets a bit geeky here. The engineering that was required to make it work properly with Japanese language was a really unique challenge.
It was, and it took us a bit longer for the Japanese language to be, I would say, the same quality as we had for the Western language, but we achieved that. So I'm very happy about it. We do a number of those, what I would call mathematical transformations. And in those transformations, there is something called the regex, regular expressions, that we have to obviously recognize, index properly. And we are ability to do so in a way in which enables data loss prevention, for example. You are sending a file to a counterpart, and that file needs to be scanned to make sure that it does not contain any information that could be leaked mistakenly or intentionally to this counterpart against company policies. So ability to do that in Japanese is something that we are very proud of, and which now enables so-called borderless communications, but still very secure and compliant.
And you've probably been asked that question 100,000 times already too, but you've got a WeChat integration. There's certainly some people out there a bit critical of the security of all the Chinese applications and the ability of the Chinese government to access it or not to access it. I have no technical information there. Is the integration of WeChat something that actually exposes the whole information flow to unwanted parties?
In the context of WeChat, it certainly does not. And the reason is because the way we've integrated with WeChat is very unique, actually. WeChat has this concept called the mini program. So they have a sandbox, like Apple has a sandbox for your favorite application on your iPhone. And so they have a special language into that. And so what we have done is that we built a Symphony within as a mini program to be resident within this application. And then encryption of Symphony is taken all the way to the edge. So all the way to that mini program. Now, if somebody hacks your phone, and obviously we can't protect you against that, until the time that you read that message on the mini program within WeChat, that message remains as secure as any other Symphony endpoint because it is a Symphony endpoint that's living in that zone. But it's not the same with WhatsApp. We've also actually this week announced our WhatsApp integration as well, and we've done the same thing with WhatsApp, but it's very different. In the WhatsApp scenario, is that we are writing to WhatsApp APIs. So at that point, we are decrypting the message, the Symphony message, and re-encrypting the Symphony message as a WhatsApp message. So it comes direct as opposed to being resident in a mini app program like in the WeChat situation. And therefore, we cannot guarantee in this case the end-to-end security. So you're going to have to trust WhatsApp and Facebook with their security model. And some customers are okay with it. They know that there is indeed an inherent risk with consumer network tools such as WhatsApp, Line, and WeChat or iMessage, and then they cater their information accordingly.
Understood. Very interesting technical detail. Thank you.
Welcome.
Does the WeChat integration mean that Symphony is used on mainland China as well, or is it mainly to address Hong Kong market, for example?
I would say the latter to begin with. Certainly the Hong Kong or any offshore market, as Chinese will define onshore or offshore, interestingly. Having said that, we do have customers, international customers in China using Symphony. So our international customers who have offices in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Shenzhen are using Symphony within their organization. So that, I know it's there, but we are not selling Symphony to Chinese entities or organizations. They tend to be, pretty much on WeChat because that's what they standardize on.
Okay, so we covered all the messaging. In a way, that's the history up to now of Symphony, and obviously a very successful journey. Now that everybody is on Symphony messaging, you're going to tackle the workflow issues and workflow automation. And there's some super interesting use cases that we've seen, I think, also work that Gan has done here with your Japanese clients that goes far, far beyond messaging and really into the productivity realm. Maybe you can highlight some of the cases that are your favorites from your clients.
Having the right network in terms of number of individuals and companies has enabled us to have a foundation for, I'm going to say, workflow efficiency. And that's very interesting, Norbert, the way what's going on right now. The paradigm of work is changing in the following way. In the past, you had a communication screen, mostly Microsoft Outlook. You have an information screen, set of databases that you have access to. And then you had some work screen that could be, if you are a trader, it's Bloomberg. If you are in the incident management, it could be ServiceNow. If you are a salesperson, it could be a Salesforce. And so as an individual, you had to juggle across these three key mainstream applications, and all of them lived in silos. So here comes Symphony, or actually Slack or Teams. And we say, you know what? Look, all of this revolves around you, people. Why don't we bridge you people with those systems? Instead of changing context and fetching information, writing information to this discrete information system, which are not meant to talk to each other, what if we were to bring it all together into that collaboration platform? That collaboration is inclusive of not only human beings, but also the applications with which we have to collaborate too. And that is the new work. That is the revolution. That is the new operating system, which nobody has really planned for. And so that was a very interesting first step because, let's bring notifications in so that I don't have to go to email or to that system to know what's going on. Okay, so we done that. And then, you know what? Why I enter commands to that system that is remote through my collaboration platform? Because that's where my eyeballs are. Well, we've done that. Okay, if you've done that, well, if I'm talking to an application, is there a way the application can talk to another application that I have to talk to? So, for example, incident management to CRM. So on one hand, I have my sales records for my customer on Salesforce. On the other hand, I have my incidents of the same customer on ServiceNow. Can't we gateway these two things together and create a seamless operation? And that is the phase that we are actually jumping into. And that basically means that the underlying messaging platform, the messaging conduit, isn't just for you and I to say, hi, how are you? Let's make this deal. But it's also some garbled language of the data that comes from one database, normalized, transformed into something that the other database can understand so that we deal with the information once and use it many times. And that is the new revolution. That is where the distance, this digital distance that exists among the application is reduced to zero. The friction that exists in this context switching evaporates. And then suddenly the task that used to take 30 minutes to do for humans is taking literally 1 second, the time of a blink of an eye. And that's what we are working on. That is going to revolutionize so much the way we work, the way we interact with each other. And then we're going to be able to extend that asset to our customers. So I deal, every, let's say, financial institution deals with the customer. They are not living on their own. And so that means that information systems aren't there just for their own sake, they are for their customers' sake. And so if I create efficiency for my organization, why I cannot project that efficiency to my customers? And that is what Symphony is enabling. That federated network of our customers has created this highway upon which we land all these innovations and interconnecting them and creating a very exciting world.
Totally. For me, it started always with the very basic task of what is the status of a trade, for example, or settlement. There's so much time spent from operations operations people prostrate to answer very basic questions that could be much better answered by a bot. And so if you can integrate Symphony with your trade or settlement platform, if you get an inquiry in, it has a trade reference number, it recognizes that, get the API to that system, get the answer, push it out again, as you say, in a second. And the humans can actually then focus on the value-added work as it should be. If that is the future, what would be your expectation for the message volume in your overall platform that will ultimately be generated by humans versus the part that's ultimately generated by bots?
If my vision comes true, I think the bots will overtake the humans' capability to send messages. These virtual beings are able to execute messages faster than anyone else in terms of sending and receiving them. It's already happening in some of our accounts. Some of our accounts, the threshold has been taken over by the bots. There's more messages sent by bots than it's sent by human beings. And it's unstoppable at that time, because then it becomes an information system, right? It's very interesting definition to think about Symphony as a chat tool. If we just name it as a chat tool, that means that we don't really understand what chatting means. Yes, chatting has this, consumer flavor into it, in which we talk in non-essential way about things that matter to our relationship. But in the context of a business, it has a whole different meaning. When I type a message, that message becomes information, and information becomes data. And when it becomes data, then it turns into an extremely valuable asset for the organization. And that's really the way in which we have to conceive the communication systems of tomorrow and perceive them, because they are the true pulse of what's going on in an organization. They are the true proxy of the trends, of the thinking, of the organism that a company is. And that is an unprecedented data set we've never had access to. In the past, you had your inbox, I had my inbox, we had no idea what that meant. If you are working on the same business that I am, we couldn't correlate that. Now we have capability to make this correlation and make the organizations far more intelligent than ever before. Somebody in Japan working on a particular deal who's picking up in the morning because New York went to bed. Well, imagine now they know that there was another team working on a very similar information, and now you are aware of it and you can inherit that rather than creating from scratch. Suddenly you became smarter, and that's really exciting.
Super exciting. When you look at the future for Symphony in the more short term, let's say 3 to 5 years, is that primarily a deepening penetration in the capital markets domain, or is there some horizontal scaling across other industries as well?
So in financial services, which will remain our focus. And what I mean is that it will remain, but will not be exclusive, but it will remain our focus. We are in the wholesale universe right now. And so global market is part of the wholesale banking universe, but there is more to wholesale banking, just global markets. There is private wealth management, there is corporate banking, there is investment banking. And so the first, I would say, roadmap for our go-to-market is continuing our progress in those areas of wholesale banking, which I think is going to take us, another 3 to 5 years to achieve some degree of maturity. And we are making progress because they are very concentrated in very large organizations. So you got roughly 20 organizations in the world that have pretty much that capacity to have end-to-end wholesale banking business. And they are all of our customers. So it's about managing our relationships well within this environment. But then there is the retail. If you have wholesale, you have retail. That means that retail has to feed on something. It feeds on the wholesale. Feeding the supply with the right technology and the right assets there, and making Symphony essential piece of the puzzle for their day-to-day work is what we will leverage in order to take us to retail. And our ability to connect to their customers through WhatsApp and WeChat, and later, hopefully, iMessage and Line, is going to give our company a significant capability and advantage over others because of the workflow things that we just talked about, because of the connectivity, the compliance, the security things that we've addressed earlier on. So that will be kind of our next journey, followed by after the wholesale path that we are on. But there are other opportunities always. There are government offices that come to us. They care about security, and and we serve them. Are we going to go and take on a full scale, let's go into defense sector kind of an approach? We don't know yet. We think that there is an opportunity, but we need to be cognizant that we are not a general purpose like Microsoft Teams or Slack is collaboration application. If we go somewhere, we are going with something in which the use cases, the community cares about the values that we provide beyond the standard stacks that come free part of Office 365. And if you find that match, trust me, Norbert, we'll go full steam ahead.
I'm sure you will. Your last fundraising round was somewhere autumn last year, right?
June. We closed in June of 19.
Okay. For many startups, the current environment obviously is very difficult for fundraising. How long do you think you will last with what you've raised, or is there an IPO on the horizon somewhere?
So we think we raised a lot of money last time, $165 million. And in Japan, MUFG was one of our investors in that round. So we are very happy about that relationship and partnership. Right now, we feel comfortable, very good, very well funded, with revenue coming in, giving us lots of runway before we should consider any investment from other parties. Now, I'm not going to, exclude an option that could happen or not. Tomorrow, somebody gives me a term sheet that I like the right valuation, I will be, pretty stupid not to take it. So that's always something that actually that's all of our rounds happen this way. We've always had external solicitation and then from which we created a round. So as it comes to the IPO, we think about the IPO in the following sense. At one point, if there are needs for liquidity, then why not? Today, that need is not manifesting itself, so we are not considering that. However, we would like to run the company as if we are a public company, and that means that we are predictable, we have the right governance, we have the right processes, and we deserve the right attention, obviously, from the analysts who might eventually cover us. So we treat those direct consequences of being a public company as a fantastic training opportunity for our operating principle, and we operate as such. If one day we decide to take the company IPO, which could happen or not happen, then we'll be ready to do so without too much effort.
Makes total sense. Wonderful. Any final comments from your side?
If there are any entrepreneurs who are following us in this particular podcast, whether they are in FinTech or outside, I always get asked the question of what it takes to be successful, what it takes to be a good entrepreneur. And I don't think there are like cookie cutter recipes, but there are some personality and character traits that I think matter for being successful. I will adventure to say the following, and I will conclude with that, Norbert. One is, the idea needs to be really your idea. It has this inception in your brain. You have to embrace it with every molecule of your body and with all the emotions that come from it, because it will be tested so many times. So many people are going to try to destroy it that if you do not have that full commitment to it, it's going to be shaking out of you. And so that's a very important starting point. The second element is resourcefulness. What characterizes entrepreneurship is that you are going in an environment where an existing solution doesn't fit an existing problem, and you are coming with a new solution to that same problem. And that means that you need to be very resourceful to find solutions in which others have tried and failed. And that basically requires a high degree of humility, because you're going to make lots of mistakes, and you can't be arrogant and say my solution is the best. So you're going to have to reiterate a number of times. And also it means that you need to be smart enough to listen to others, because it's through that interaction that your solutions get honed in and up becoming a viable product in the market. And the third and last piece of advice I would like to give to existing and aspiring entrepreneurs is that I don't know if success is defined. This is not for me, because if you think that there is success, then what comes after it is really the biggest question for me. And so I think it's an eternal quest of work, imagination, ups and downs that is part of the life of an entrepreneur. If you are looking for an easy life, please do not come this path. I'm telling you, my life is not easy. If you are looking for a happy life, please do not do what I am doing. There are very few furtive moments that I'm happy, and the remaining time I'm just chasing that forever. And you got to be comfortable with those feelings, otherwise you'll be miserable. But I'll finish on a high, saying that there are moments in which those joys that you get from your furtive successes truly fulfill you, and that is worth doing.
Wonderful. That's brilliant closing remarks. And although there's lots of hardship and persistence, you've also got a big 500 people or stronger Symphony family with you now. That is a fantastic achievement. I'm sure it's a fantastic community that then extends into all your clients as well. So we wish you all the best for the future journeys. It was fantastic to catch up, and stay healthy and in good spirits, David.
Norbert, thanks for having me. Thanks for these very wonderful and pertinent questions and listening to me. And stay safe and healthy. And I'm hoping to come and see you in Tokyo as soon as this situation disappears.
Wonderful. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.